Well, welcome back. This is our second video recording on non-routine warrant articles. Hopefully you had a chance to watch our first recording on fiscal update. If you haven't, I recommend it. But this one is, we're just going to chat about non-routine warrant articles. Now, every article in the warrant is important, and it deserves your attention. But we only have so much time, and so we're just going to cover what we think are sort of non-routine ones that you might need a little more education on. And so we have a lot in our warrant at the town meeting that's important. Things like the Dale Street School, Parks and Rec, DPW capital projects, Conservation Commission, and zoning. So a lot of sort of things to consider and educate yourself on. But today, I think we're going to just cover just a few areas that are new and you might not know anything about. So with that, Bob, why don't you start out with the senior and veteran property tax exemption programs.
Thanks, Steve. So the group that we want to make you familiar, help you to become familiar with, is a group of 5 articles. And they're addressing senior and veteran property tax exemption programs. And these have been put forward by the select board with the consideration that certain people within our community who may be retired, who may have disabilities, who may have some issues that doesn't allow them to have the income growth, to take advantage of statutes that exist. So first of all, Articles 15, 16, and 17, which all require separate votes, relate to property tax exemptions that are allowed under certain circumstances for seniors, for surviving spouses, for surviving minor children, under the statutes of the state law in Massachusetts. And all 3 articles adopted by a town meeting would increase the cost to the town of about $3,500, but it will allow each one of those groups to participate to the fullest extent possible under the statute. Article 18, the Senior Tax Work-Off Program Amendment. The Medfield Senior Tax Work-Off Program was adopted in 1990 at the annual town meeting and amended the town meeting in 2014 to increase the amount of tax reduction to $1,000. The amendments proposed this year include increasing the annual maximum tax reduction to $1,500, which is the maximum allowed by the state. And in addition, it amends the bylaw to allow individuals who work part-time, less than 15 hours per week, for either a school or a town department to participate in the program. And for the good example of this is that we do have some seniors who participate and support the schools through substitute teaching programs, and we want to allow them to continue in that support of the town and still be eligible for this program. Article 19 is the adjusted exemption amount for veterans.
Yeah.
And that is just the same process for eligible veterans to increase their exemption amount, which is $800. With the adoption of this article, the increase will be to $845.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, you know, this article is being sponsored by the select board, and they were concerned with, they wanted to do more for seniors and veterans in town. So that was the impetus behind this. There was an opportunity to sort of update what we were doing there and take advantage of some of these amendments. So great. Thank you, Bob. The next grouping of articles is a Conservation Commission, and Ashley's going to cover those.
So I had the pleasure of being the liaison to the Conservation Commission as part of the Warrant Committee, and worked with the chair, Deb Barrow, and John Woodhall, who sit on the committee, who were interested in bringing forth 2 articles related to the Conservation Commission. I think if you are interested and love the things that I do about Medfield, it's beautiful, green, free, and open space. Come and vote one way or another on these articles. One is about Danielson Pond Dam. That's Article 21. You might wonder where the heck Danielson Pond Dam is. It's going down 27 towards Walpole after South Street. It's on your right. Danielson Pond is on your left. There is a dam there, and it requires continued maintenance and upkeep as required by the state. And for us to maintain and upkeep the dam, we need money. So we've appropriated $50,000 from the Certified Free Cash Fund to go towards the maintenance of the dam. The next article is Article 22 about the Conservation Trust Fund. This is a fund held by the Conservation Trust that it can be used towards repairs, small capital projects, kind of whatever they deem fit for the properties that they are in care, custody, and control of. So we are taking, again, from Certified Free Cash, $5,000, a small sum, to help support that fund.
That's great. I think those are two important articles, and I think that's a great summary. So the next one is our Park and Rec, right?
Yes.
That's the next one, yeah.
If you're like me, my kiddos love Park and Rec. And Park and Rec, you might know, the FAF building had to close in November of 2024, and the Park and Rec Department and the Park and Rec Commission has sought temporary solutions to provide a home for the Park and Recreation Department. Their programming has been reduced this winter and this spring because they do not have a house for the department and its programming. The town, Park and Rec and Commission, the Permanent Planning and Building Committee evaluated viable options for a temporary solution and agreed that a solution to build a modular, lease and erect a modular at 59 Green Street, which is where Hinckley Pond is, would be the best solution to support summer programming at a near full capacity, which is amazing for children and their caretakers in Medfield. So the Warrant Committee has put forth with the Park and Rec Commission and Park and Recs and the Permanent Planning and Building Committee request to appropriate $165,000 to build a modular for a one-year lease at that property. This will enable programming, it will enable the Marlin swim team to have a place to go to, it will enable Park and Recreation to have year-round programming for the next year.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in here, right? It's but you know, the town has, for as long as I've been here, supported with a department, Parks and Rec, and programming along that. You know, we've had salaries and all this other. We've given them space for over 30 years, and so it's important to the community. There's a lot of families that take advantage of it, and I think this, while it doesn't solve the problem permanently, long term, it's something that needs to be done to get them through this
Absolutely,
year.
and the three parties that were involved in determining this was the best solution are going to look at other viable options over the next year, right, to evaluate how Park and Rec can see a long-term home. The last time this happened was in like 1967, so it's been a long time since this has happened. And to your kind of discussion earlier, this is a capital project that we've known about that we need to address at some point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is an example of a delayed capital project that has become a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And I think also we've referenced that the Warrant Committee meetings are available on YouTube. The Park and Rec meetings, specifically the one that addressed this solution as a short-term solution, might be useful for you to review, because it does go through the various options and how they came to a conclusion to
Yeah.
this solution.
Yeah, I think the committee felt, our water committee felt, we support this article, but we felt that this was a good solution, short-term, and gave them time to sort of get to what's the best long-term solution. And they're going to need time to do that,
Absolutely.
rather than dealing with it in a crisis mode.
Correct.
So, yeah. All right. The next group of articles is the Dale Street Elementary School.
Yes, so if you are interested in our schools, or if you're interested in how we can support the future of our children, pay attention to Article 25 and 26. Article 25 is the elementary school feasibility study funding. What a mouthful. It was submitted by the select board, the school committee, and the school building committee. And what the Warrant Committee is proposing is that the town vote to transfer $400,000 from certified free cash to fund the feasibility study required under the MSBCA program. Medfield was invited back to the MSBCA program in November, and in order to participate in it, we must have a feasibility study to look at the cost of building a school, the design, the layout, the capacity, and that is not covered by the grant. In order for us to move forward with the grant, we have to fund the feasibility study in advance. So this is what we're asking for. The town has appropriated $1.15 million to pay the cost of the feasibility study, and this article asks for $400,000 to come from certified free cash to go towards that total cost of 1.15.
Yeah, I think this brings it up to that 1.5 million level, which is sufficient to deal with a second feasibility study. They will do everything they can to sort of use what we did in the first one and keep the costs hopefully below the 1.5, but the 1.5 should be sufficient. And the MSBA does require us to have that approved before moving on into the next module that they have. So,
And I think it's important to note that whilst we agree that putting this 1.5 million in for this purpose, it's not a bogey number. The school building committee has made it clear that they're going to use as much as they can out of prior work, but it needs to be put forward so that the MSBA knows that we are committed to this project. And this, like other programs that come through free cash, if we don't expend that amount, which is appropriated, it will come back to the town in free cash.
Right.
So this money is not just committed and gone. It does serve the purpose of showing that we are committed and able to do this feasibility study, and the building committee has shown that they will do their best to reduce. And we have a member of the Warrant Committee on that school building committee to ensure that that's done.
yes, Pete Michelson. Yeah,
Pete's on it.
he's doing double duty. But so the next article is the elementary school tax mitigation stabilization fund. That's a mouthful.
Oh, Steve. Yes. So this was also submitted by the select board, the warrant committee, the school committee, and the school building committee. And what this does is it asks the town to vote to transfer $900,000 to certified free cash into this mouthful of a fund for the purpose of paying our debt service when it's issued and alleviating the burden on resident taxes, correct?
Yes, so that it's meant to sort of to serve as a relief valve, basically, because the projections are that the tax bill could increase anywhere from 8 to 10%, the average tax bill, which is a lot. So all of a sudden, you have your tax bill increase, and so this is meant to sort of stabilize that increase. And last year was proposed that that would be done over a 3-year period, so we would bring it in, whatever we end up in this fund of the balance. There's a goal of like 4 to 5 million,
Right.
and so whatever that balance is would be brought in over 3 years to smooth out that increase, so it's not as shocking year to year to residents, particularly seniors, right? And I think it was supported by the select board, the school committee, the warrant committee,
All
and
the
the school
committees.
building committee.
Yep.
So everybody's sort of on board with this approach, and that's, I think, the plan.
And it's another example of what we talked about in our finance presentation, which is we're trying to, as best can, anticipate costs to have a smoother presentation on the taxes and allow people to see and project for their own personal finances what that tax burden will be and what that tax cost will be. And this is a way of taking funds that are now available and mitigating some of that initial increase.
Absolutely, and I think when Steve talks about our financial policies, one thing I've learned by sitting on the warrant committee is that there's a true disciplined, prudent, and thoughtful approach to how we use money in this town. And this is one of those ways so that we can support new capital projects like building the school, but also reduce the financial burden of it on our residents.
Right, yeah, and we have, last year we created this fund, we put 900,000 into it. The article this year asked for another 900, and then there's also some land sale proceeds of 450,000. So we're getting closer to that 4 to 5 million goal. We still have some more room to go, but over the next 2 or 3 years, hopefully we'll get there. So.
Wonderful.
So the final grouping of articles is our zoning articles. And these you'll see, you'll quickly get lost in a lot of detail in the warrant book because they're very long. They tend to be, zoning articles tend to be long. They amend zoning bylaws. And so the first one deals with the flood district zoning amendment. And that is, our existing flood district zoning bylaw is outdated. And so this particular bylaw, the warrant committee supports an update because it's designed to basically, protect our residents and any property owners who happen to be in a high-risk flood zone, because it mirrors the FEMA guidelines, and the FEMA guidelines are important if you need to obtain flood insurance. Following those FEMA guidelines is important, and that's what this bylaw does. That's what this article does. Is it brings our bylaw into compliance with the FEMA guidelines, and remain so that we can remain in the national flood insurance program and maintain access to flood insurance and disaster relief, which is important for any resident that lives close to these areas. So,
Which many of us do, right?
yes, yes, yes. The last article is the accessory dwelling units one. You may have read that the state passed a law on accessory dwelling units this past year. It's actually it's in enforcement now today, and the planning board, I should mention, the planning board has spent a lot of time on both of these zoning articles, the flood district one as well as the ADU one. And they will be speaking separately about these articles at town meeting. But this ADU article deals with accessory dwelling units. Currently, our existing bylaw is not, it's useless because we have a state law. And so it's sort of, you can't follow the existing bylaw because there's a state law. And it's out of compliance with the state law. So in order to not just have everything follow the state law and take control of our own destiny as a community of how ADUs are done in our town, we need to update that bylaw. And that's what this article does. It deals with some of the issues that the state law allows local communities to adopt and control, and without this, you know, you sort of revert back to what the state law allows.
So it really protects.
It protects.
Protects us as
Right.
citizens of the town.
Right, right.
So,
And-
like, let's say, for example, Steve, I wanted to build an ADU for my mom to live on my property or something like that.
Yeah,
And it's on top of my neighbor. It's right on their property line. Does
right.
this give my neighbor the ability to have a say in there, or it gives local
There's
regulations?
Yes, what this does is it puts in place some of those setback limits, height limits, site plan reviews. Like any normal, you know, development in town, you have to go through a site plan review with the right committee and make sure that, so it sort of requires that process to be put in place. Without this, you
The
know,
state would
the
prevail.
state law would prevail, and you could do something like
And
you
this puts the
suggested.
town,
Right.
this puts
Yeah.
the town back in control.
Yes,
Within
exactly.
that
Great.
law. That's
Exactly,
perfect. That's good.
exactly,
Thank
yeah.
you. Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah. I think, you know, they're all these are important articles, like we mentioned to begin with. And it's really important that, I think you said it right, Ashley. Our Warrant Committee reports do a great job of, like, especially with these zoning articles. I think they're very long. If you go just to our Warrant Committee report, it's like a couple paragraphs that summarizes it and gets right to the key issues, right?
Mhm.
You know, any closing comments?
No, I just think,
for,
I think both of you have clarified it very well, that there's 30 articles, and you will vote on each. We're not prioritizing them, but we have identified these as being, quote, non-traditional in terms of specific to the current fiscal year, and want to educate you on what that brings. And as Ashley and Steve have mentioned, the Warrant Committee report is a pretty good cliff notes to help you, and there's plenty of detail if you want to dig more into it.
But more importantly, Bob, show up and vote, right?
Absolutely.
If you don't vote, somebody else is going to vote for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess in closing, I'd just like to thank Medfield TV for hosting us and hosting these two videos. Again, this is the second of two videos. The first one was on fiscal update. This is on non-routine financial articles. And so thank you to Medfield TV. And also thank you to our fellow Warrant Committee members who have put in a lot of time and effort, and to the town finance group and administration, Christine, Brittany, and Frank, for all their support and transparency for our efforts during the past year, and to Jeff and Mike on the school side too. And so, but as Ashley reminded everybody, please show up. There is an effort to look at the quorum for town meeting. If you're concerned about that being lowered, and maybe having a small group of people decide what happens in this town, maybe you should show up.
There's an
And,
option
yeah.
potentially for childcare,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I also think if you have an older kid and want to show them how they can be involved in local government, have them come. The high
Yes.
school is doing a great initiative, right, to get
Yes.
students interested.
Yes.
And I think service starts at a young age. So bring your kid, have them learn a thing or two about how a town operates.
Yes, I know there's some senior projects that are attempting to get those seniors that have turned 18, get them registered to vote and to
So important.
participate in our town meeting. So,
Yeah, so once again, and to all the committees that we've worked with the town workers that we've been able to interface with, it really is a remarkable town, and we are really very fortunate to be in it, and most importantly, so fortunate to be able to participate in this manner of a town meeting where all of you are the legislator for the town. So we have that opportunity, and we have that responsibility.
yeah. So show up on May 5th, 7 o'clock at the Medfield High School gym and take control of our wonderful town's future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Amen.